Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I am Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And welcome to episode 75 of the Hustling Sideways podcast, where we talk about passion projects, side hustles, all sorts of things like that.
And we just enjoy ourselves.
Yes.
Sometimes we just come here and don't even talk about anything, which,
we don't record those.
Yeah,
we just sit in a room,
sit down, and we just talk to brick walls.
Could you imagine if you just showed up and we just sat on opposite ends of the room?
Talked, yeah.
No, not even talk.
Anything.
Just we sat there, just silent.
That sounds like actual torture.
It's a terrible idea. I don't know.
Not gonna do that.
We shouldn't do that.
It's not gonna be edited.
Nobody would
No, we would really hate that. Yeah.
But yeah, we are at episode number 75.
And it is 2024, like it's full throttle now.
Yeah,
we're starting, and just came off a week that I thought everyone was going to be still out on vacation, and that was not the case. And
I don't think it was the case for anybody.
It was
so
wild.
I had a busy work week as well. I also dealt with a whole bunch of other my Facebook got hacked.
Yeah,
so that
Alan had
fun.
hacking on Facebook, and not great, Bob.
No. They got into the Hustling Sideways page.
They did.
So,
oh gosh. So now we are called what?
No, we're still called the Hustling Sideways.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they
literally, but they got in. It was crazy. We can talk about that another time.
I'm laughing. I mean, it's good now.
No, everything's good now. We're fine.
If you weren't good, I wouldn't be laughing.
For a moment there, I was cursing Mark Zuckerberg out every single day.
Well, then we gained 1 million subscribers. Somehow.
No, that's the thing. We didn't gain anyone. I wish if we would have gained a bunch of people, that would have been great too.
A great hacking job.
Yes. But no, that is not the case. Yeah. So yeah, I think, but the holidays snuck up on everyone.
They did.
And then all of a sudden now we're in 2024.
Yeah. And I had it was a short week.
Yeah.
I had 1,000 things to do. And anyway, I know it's Monday right now, but we're recording this on a Friday night.
Right.
And we're I am done.
We're over it.
Go home
at this
put
point.
My feet up. That's the plan. But you know how we always start a show in a year is we have a guest.
Yes. And we do have a great guest. We don't need to be done and over it just yet. We gotta talk to our guest.
Fair point. Yeah. Anyway, great show, everyone.
Yeah, right. And we're done. No. Today we have an author, we have a community builder, we have Deb Schell on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Deb.
Hello, my name's Deb Schell, actually, but you're good because everybody puts an N in it for absolutely no reason because it doesn't actually exist there, but somewhere
I totally thought that there was an N there.
Right?
Which makes it seem like there's an that's I was gonna say I want to make it clear I would have said it wrong too. I made Alan
but
say
a lot of people do, but I always am where do you get the N?
It's our brains. That's
I don't know.
See stuff that's not there. Yeah.
Thank you for having me here.
Weird little sidebar. Did you know that if you read through something and it has the word of in it, your brain actually doesn't read it?
Really?
The word of, or two, little short words like that, your brain just could take those out of a sentence and your brain would just pass.
I think Deb and I both read those. I don't know. Maybe you're just
fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Anyway, Deb, where are you checking in from today? Where are you calling us from?
I'm in central Pennsylvania in the Harrisburg region. So if you're familiar with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, I am in neither of those cool cities. I'm in the middle of the state where things are boring.
I always like when there's a small town and the description is I'm not in the place. I'm in a different spot. That's small.
This is obscure. My literal only reference for the town of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is there was an indoor soccer team that played against the Milwaukee Wave called the Harrisburg Heat back in the day.
Are you familiar with
I remember. Oh yeah, I used to watch them.
Yeah, that is my only frame of reference.
Which is all you need. That's what they got. They got
and when you say back in the day, that's 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
I think you are the first Pennsylvanian.
I think so.
That we've had.
We usually try to keep track of states. Yeah. We also usually try to keep track of episode numbers, and we didn't do that either.
But you're definitely the first person from Harrisburg.
Yes, 1,000% certainty on that.
Positive there. Yeah.
So
all right.
For that, but wonderful. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your family upbringing, and how you got to where you're at right now.
Are you really serious?
Yeah.
Family upbringing.
Yeah.
Hey, family is tough. What they'll say is.
Yeah.
I am in central Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania because it has lots of beautiful places to hike. I go hiking. I've been at over 50 state parks in Pennsylvania. We have over 120 state parks here in Pennsylvania. and I've been at 50 of them. So I'm an avid hiker.
Mhm.
I grew up pretty sheltered and didn't know what the heck I was doing or what life was about. So when I went to art school, I got a very big, whoa, open eye moment. Fast forward to 20 something with 20 zeros. I was a journalist, and apparently nobody reads newspapers anymore. So I didn't do that anymore. And I was in sales for a while. And then I was working on quitting my job
Mhm.
and wanting to be a travel writer.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit about me. I'll pause
Yeah.
there.
No,
Sure.
that's good. When did you know, was journalism when did that pop up as a thing that you really wanted to do? Was that in college, or when did
When
that
I was in high school,
okay.
I studied photography and then went to Art Institute of Pittsburgh for photography and then got my bachelor's degree in photojournalism at Point Park University. I was intending to do newspaper journalism full time, and I did do freelancing. I was freelancing for a number of years.
Mhm.
And then when I moved to this area, it was because I got a full time job as a uh, reporter and writer and photo editor and photographer and videographer.
That sounds
A
very
All of the
thousand
familiar.
things.
hats. Yep, yep.
I was gonna say,
All of the
so
things.
I write, and that sounds very familiar. I run a music website too, so that's why I'm like, oh yeah, you are all of the
It
hats
just
at
so
once.
happens to wear every single hat in the
Yeah.
organization. Exactly.
Yeah. And I
I will
realized to get
say,
out of journalism when I realized that all they do is yell at you. So
yeah. I will say travel writer, however, is something that has always like crossed my mind, especially when you see like now with like influencers and things where people are like, I'm a travel influencer. And I'm like, how did you make that work?
Yeah.
That you are like able to go around the world and like some people like are like living out of vans or
Yeah.
like living in cool
And people just
hotels.
like believe, like they're like, what does that person have to say about everything?
Yeah.
All right,
So
interesting.
so how did you kind of get into originally being a travel writer? Because I am jealous of that in itself.
So I had a connection. Well, first of all, I met people in an online community, which is
Mhm.
kind of how I've really jumped into the community industry, was because I became a member of an online community when I was trying to figure out how to build an online business back in 2016. And like nobody around me knew, I didn't know anybody doing online business in my area. So I went online, I found a community called Location Indie, which is the same people that you're just kind of talking about. These digital nomads is kind of another term for them. And I met these people virtually, and then I ended up meeting them in person in Denver. I flew to Colorado to meet them and decided I was going to like join that group. And through that group, I learned some skills around business, but I also kind of got inspiration and support around building a travel writing portfolio. And I reached out to some of my other colleagues in the newspaper industry who referred me to a publication out of New Jersey called Travel Pulse. And I pitched the editor a few stories, one of them being, hey, I'm going to Denver. I can write something about Denver. And so that was kind of my entrance into travel writing, was pitching some stories while I was going to a town that I had no idea about and checking out the town, taking pictures, and then submitting like a little article with them.
That's really cool. I am jealous of that, and now I
Mhm.
want to go fly somewhere and tell somebody I will write about that
Yeah.
if they will send me money in
And what
exchange for
was
that.
for the online community, which obviously has become a significant part of you and what you do, what was it like to join that for the first time? Did you immediately feel a connection to people, or does it take a little while? What was some of the kind of first
It's
experiences
it's
about?
really interesting because with social media, you get to know people through
Mhm.
like Facebook and Instagram and things like that. But um, I really loved the fact that they did these really cool virtual interactive workshops, and we had tours of different towns. So then people would say like, oh, I either live in Switzerland or I live in these remote areas, and then they would tell us about them. Like one guy talked about Bulgaria, and so like we had like a mix of like business stuff and also travel stuff, like travel
Mhm.
conversations. And I think that was what really helped me keep going with wanting to do these pitching travel stories. And by the way, travel writers get paid zilch, like really nothing at all anymore. The market
Mhm.
is kind of like because it's just not possible. So people that are probably doing that either A, have rich parents, or B, are not, it's a side hustle thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. How long did you kind of go through that whole process of traveling around and writing? And then also, second question, what was the coolest place that you got to go see?
First question, the process I started traveling a little bit more. I hadn't really traveled until this time. And when I say this time, like 2016, and I was 36 at the time. And I hadn't really done a lot, and our family didn't really go anywhere when I was younger. So traveling was very exciting, but very kind of like, oh, I don't know what is happening with traveling. And through that process, I ended up becoming a really great traveler, understanding like, okay, with the do's and the don'ts of traveling, and got really great travel tips. But I would say I was traveling basically up until the pandemic,
Okay.
pretty much.
Wow. Okay. So obviously, yes, that would greatly impact a travel
I can't
writer.
imagine why that would stop you. Yeah.
So a bit of a shift in focus then that
Oh,
leads
I have
you
to answer your second
writing.
question
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Oh, the coolest
Yes,
place.
coolest
Yes.
place.
Second question. So second time I met Location Indie friends with my travel community. First time we met in Denver in 2018. Second time was in 2019 in Mexico, in center of Querétaro. I can't roll my R's yet. Querétaro, Mexico, which is central Mexico. It's north of Mexico City.
Okay.
In between Mexico City and that town that I just said, there is a lovely butterfly reserve place where the monarch butterflies come down to do their whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we went on a 4-hour bus. Like we got a, I don't know what those buses are called, but special bus like that would take us, would drive us to this location, and walked around with millions and billions of butterflies. And if you hear butterflies flapping, that's like all you heard. You just heard like millions of butterfly wings flapping
Is that
everywhere.
mildly terrifying?
It was no, it was really
I was
amazing.
gonna say, I think she enjoys it. Yeah.
That would kind of, I mean, like the sight of it would be really cool, but like the sound would be like a little bit.
Well, it wasn't loud. And actually, you're
Okay.
supposed to be quiet. Like they tell you not to
Sure.
talk
Yeah.
when you're walking through there because they're mating. It's
Yeah.
like this is their
All
mating
right.
season.
Congrats
And
to the
so they
butterfly.
like need their space, they
That's
need their
right.
like, I don't know, vibes
No.
or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, the vibes. Yeah. I guess I need to know the inverse of this. Was there like a least favorite place that you went to? Is one that was just not your jam of going to? And you could say no, but I'm just curious. Like,
I'll tell you what, I love the Grand Canyon. I was at the North Rim and the South Rim. The South Rim is just very, very touristy, especially if you go like in the summertime. So I think one of my annoying things was like going to a place where there was like I really try to go off like shoulder season, which is what people call like this. Like people usually travel in the summer and the winter, and shoulder season is the spring and the fall. So I always learned that it's better to travel like financially, it's cheaper and less touristy when you go to places in those times of year. October was when I flew into Albuquerque, New Mexico, got a car and I did the International Balloon Festival, which is one of the best events I've ever been to.
that's so cool.
And then I drove over to Arizona. Yeah. And then we drove the first day. My mom wanted to go to Arizona, to the Grand Canyon. So that's why I took her there. And we went to the South Rim, and then the North Rim is like another couple hours drive. So you're talking 14, 15-hour driving a day. And
wow,
it's a long day. And that's just to get to there.
Right.
And that's not even really talking talking about getting there and back, but then that's not even talking about like how much time you spend in parks. So they have like really cool cabins and stuff that you can rent on the North Rim because it's so far. But I would say the South Rim was just really challenging because
I feel
it was
that.
like touristy and bleh.
Yeah. I almost think of like a gift shop in the middle of like a really historic place. Like,
like
I'm like, I don't want to be in there. I know who's like, I want to go actually see the places. It's like, yeah. So I totally get that.
I think of when I've been to Nashville a few times, and there's Broadway, which is like, you got to do it once kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it
every
is.
bachelor and bachelorette party in the world.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
waiting for you to be there.
It's great. Or like New York, like actual New Yorkers don't go to Times Square.
No, not right.
Because
They have
it's
their
just
own
a tourist
spots.
trap kind of
Exactly.
thing. So I could.
Why would you?
I
I
could
don't know
imagine.
why anybody would go.
I
It's
don't blame it. That
bright
place,
and loud.
yeah. It also literally stinks. Like
Yes.
New York
Well, yeah.
smells. It's in it. I mean, I've been there 3 times. It's fine. But people that are like the greatest city in the world, like no way.
I met up with an actual New Yorker there, and
Yeah.
she was like, we went to Times Square because I had never been, obviously.
Yeah.
We got food in Times Square, and she was like, just so you know, you're lucky I'm even showing my face in this part of town.
I would never go here. Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, there's actual garbage anyway. That's this is not a New York hatred episode, but anyway, carry on. Yeah.
So the pandemic obviously puts a damper on traveling and writing. Well, writing about travel. So is that kind of when the focus was already shifted to like I'm gonna write a book, or was that kind of the catalyst for it instead?
I didn't know at all that I was going to write a book in 2020. If you would have told me that then, I would have been like, "What? Who are you talking to?" But really, I knew that I wanted to build community because during the pandemic, we were all kind of like, "What are we doing? What's happening? We don't know," and a lot of people wanted to connect. So I decided to launch an online community. I had recruited a lot of speakers. I launched a paid membership, which was my first adventure into membership world. And it failed. I had 0 paid members on my launch.
Sure.
It was really not fun. And I ended up lying in an inner tube in a creek, looking up at the sky, being like, why? What am I doing now with my life? Because nothing.
Yeah.
And from that, I ended up realized I did the community for free. I ran a lot of events. I did over 30 virtual events in 2020 with various speakers and things like that. And I learned a lot. And also, I met a couple people who wanted to keep meeting. I took a course about community building, and they were like, "Oh, after the course, does anybody want to keep meeting?" And I said, "Sure." So I hosted a spot in my community that I had just created for community builders. And after 6 months of continually meeting week after week, these people were like, "Deb, you should get paid to do this kind of thing."
Yeah.
Because you seem like you know a lot of stuff about community building, and you know this. So that's kind of how I decided to start to navigate from the travel writing to being a consultant, and now having helped over 60 entrepreneurs build these kind of communities and cultivate connection and belonging. And because I tried to relaunch the community as a community for community builders, I ran that for 2 years.
Okay.
And from those experiences is how I decided to write the book, because the members wanted I was trying to build courses for them, but it was easier for me to write a book than build a course. I just was like,
I get that. Yeah.
I don't know
it's easy
what to
say
teach
the
you, but
thing.
I can write my story and maybe that's helpful.
Yeah. Now, as you were working or are working with entrepreneurs and getting these folks, are there common themes that you're seeing? Like, is it fear of starting? Is it, not sure where to start? What are some of the things you run into that these folks bring to you that they really need help with?
Yeah, I think people get stuck in the comparison of like, there's just so many things. And then we think it's like not going to take a long time to do something, and it takes twice as long. Like, oh, I'll just set up my website. Well, I didn't know my website was going to be so complicated,
Take a minute.
Or everybody says, oh, your tech tool is easy. And then you try to go and do things with that tech tool, and you're like, oh, wait, I don't know that it's easy for me. So that must be an idiot or something. And so I think a lot of people feel very just challenged by all of the tech opportunities that are out there. And when you're talking about monetizing something that also hasn't been monetized much in the past, like if you think about groups that you meet up groups and things that you've been doing, like
those have been largely free. Yeah.
They're free. So we're trying to change this tide and saying, oh, if you want to have an intentional community, you should invest in it. And so that's a really hard change to share with other people. And so that's kind of a lot of what people get stuck on, is they focus too much on the tech, they get stuck, and they want to give up. And they find me when they want to do this thing, but they're just not sure. They're like confused
Mhm.
about what the steps are. And most of the time people just need validation on their idea,
Mhm.
what they want to do, who they want to bring together, why we're going to get what we're going to do inside this community with them, and why members are going to want to join.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I'm in a lot of other community spaces,
Yeah.
and it's hard to get attention from anybody for anything.
Yes,
So you have
absolutely.
to have a driven mission and for people to see that it's something of value.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that, based on trying to build fan bases and readers and things like that for the stuff that I've done, um, like you said, it's hard to get anybody's attention, but you also have to think sometimes of like what are they getting out of it? And like I think joining like a Facebook group or joining some kind of community, like the ones that I'm part of with purpose. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I know I want to go to this, let's say small business group one because I want to actually sell them an ad from
Mhm.
my website or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I know why I'm there. But
Yeah.
it's got to be so hard to put together a community or to teach somebody that like the end user is signing up for something and they need to know why they want to be there. You know what I mean? Like they need to know like or they know going in ahead of time why they want to sign up.
Mhm.
You just have to kind of get them into a place that they feel comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Every business solves some kind of problem.
Hmm.
And a community is the same. A community, you go to a community for a problem or a solution, right? You're looking for a solution or you're trying to figure out other people have the same problem, like
Mhm.
commonality wise or interest wise. So thinking about like any groups that you've been a part of, you might be intentional or you might not be. But if you're investing in it, I'm guessing you're gonna be intentional. Courses that you
Mhm.
buy, things that you're learning, and, there's a specific I say with people who start out, it's a specific time. If you say, "Okay, it starts on Tuesday, it's a 90-day program, and this is when it ends," it's a lot easier for people to, like, understand, "Okay, I can put this on my calendar.
Yeah.
I get what we're doing," versus an ongoing membership where there's not really and there's no endpoint for
Mhm.
anyone.
Hmm.
Yep.
And they're like, so it's got to be something that's consistently they can show up and they can understand why. So what I tell people that community builders that want to launch a community is have you talk to ideal members because 95% of the people I talk to made assumptions and put like this avatar together of this like ideal member. And I'm like, that member doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So we have to
Right.
go talk to humans. And so who are the 5 humans that we can talk to?
Yeah.
And if they give me the blank, I don't know stare, I'm like, well, that's where you need to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is funny. You can like come up with like the perfect, person in your head, and it's like, well, they're not existing. So go find
Yeah.
the actual people, like, and convince them that your thing has value.
Yeah. Another thing that I seem to run into with like people that put together events or want to do stuff, work with what we're doing is I think a lot of times people have a very lofty goal of what something is going to be, but getting the original, core of what something is the hard part.
Yeah.
So do you ever run into like community people or, community managers that are like, we're going to do all these fun events, we're going to do these courses, we're going to have all these different things, and a lot of times might also be like we're going to make money here, we're going to make money here, we're going to make money here, but then they've completely kind of like lost the plot of like what the main core of it is. And how do you
Yeah.
go about that conversation?
Most people have a misguided understanding of or misunderstanding of what people will do,
Mhm.
right? We
Hmm.
can't make people do something. A lot of times my clients say, well, I want them to do this and then this and then this. And I'm like, great, but we can't make them do any of it.
Yeah.
So how can we figure out what they're going to want to do? And that's really by asking them.
Hmm.
It's you know, it's hard to also on the other side of the monetization side, it's hard to really understand how people are going to understand the value.
Yeah.
And so I ask about what is it valuable to you if you could solve the problem? Like if my problem was I couldn't sleep, And that's a big problem for me. And it's causing challenges in my work life and my personal life and all that stuff. So if I found a community that legitimately helps me fall asleep or helps me learn the tools and the strategies that were going to help me do that, what would that value be for me? You
Right.
know, that would be an amazing
Yeah.
value. Now,
Yeah.
not every community concept is going to be that clear, right? A lot of community concepts are like, I want to get together with business owners. Like I have a lot of people that when I start business owner networking groups. Well, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
So how is yours different?
Exactly.
What's the
Right.
Yeah.
unique take on it? Or what's the thing that people are gonna say, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign up for yours instead of this other person's. And so I
Yeah.
think that's the challenge, and how to avoid that and get around that. What I tell people is you have to figure out what you want to do and
Right.
who your people are.
Yeah,
So it
for sure.
starts with like knowing yourself, and then it's like, okay, what can you bring to the table? What are your like superpowers or things that you really enjoy? And you enjoy talking with people about. The other thing I think people do is try to make stuff that's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
Like, I
Their
have all this
idea of
I
fun.
have all this content, so I can charge, $100 a month for all of these pieces of content, these courses and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, because guess what? People don't want content. Where you live in a world where there is unlimited content 24 hours a day on this thing called the internet. And they want somebody to help them to find a
Right.
solution right now. Actually, they wanted it yesterday.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they wanted it before they had to go seek help for it.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're dealing with already frustrated people. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have the help.
Right. Depending on where they are on the spectrum. Yeah.
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 Now, do you help pick like the platforms that are going to be best for these sorts of things? Like, okay, I'm thinking of like Discord versus Patreon versus, Facebook groups kind of thing. Like, is that a question that people give you all the time? Is like, where should I put this together?
Yeah. The number one question I get is what platform is the best one?
Yeah.
And what I will say is there is none,
Yeah, of
because
course.
your community is a group of people. And you first have to figure out who those people are and then decide on where is going to be best fit. You have to decide as a host, where do I want to spend my time? Like if I don't like spending my time on Facebook, I shouldn't be building a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's not where I like spending time. I am familiar with the reason I got into all of this was because the community that I was a member of, the location indie community, was on a platform called Mighty Networks, like Mighty Networks.
Yeah.
And I met people through that platform, and I decided I just chose that was the platform. I really liked it. It was very visual, and I'm a visual person as being a photographer, very visual person, and really loved the layout and the setup of that. So that's where I decided to build my community in 2020. The people that I was mentioning about earlier, that the community builders, they were also all building on Mighty Networks and super confused. And so that was really how I kickstarted my business, was because I ended up spending, it's really more time. Consultants are really paid because of what they know. So you want to know what I know, but you don't want to take the time that I took to learn it. So you want to know what I know without the time investment, right?
Yep.
So I can share that with you, and I can help you, and I can answer all your questions about technology. So that's kind of how I've got to do this business full time. I've been doing it full time since 2020. I've had a lot of other side hustle-y things and have not worked out. So this has been the one that I think was what I should be doing.
Yeah.
It's got to be, what's it like seeing someone, that you've been helping out, and then they find their niche, they find the platform that works. And I'm sure you have so many success stories. Like, is that the most gratifying part of what you do, when you just see these folks start flourishing because you help them out and they found really where their community is supposed to be?
Necessarily. I think I personally, I really enjoy just helping an individual succeed and feel like they're not. My business is called Find Calm Here, and a lot of that is because the experience of working with me, people have said they have felt calm.
Awesome.
And technology can create chaos and anxiety for a lot of people, as well as making all these lots of decisions. There's so many decisions business owners have to make, and they have to make them, pretty quick. We're agile as entrepreneurs, like kind of zigzagging when things aren't working out. We're just repivoting and doing something else. And, larger companies can't do that kind of stuff. So it just takes a lot longer for larger companies to do that. So that's the one benefit, I think, to being an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, is having that flexibility and kind of just jump starting anything. But I would say helping people just feel like they're not alone in this journey, I think is the biggest thing, because we all want to feel
Yeah.
like we have some kind of like understanding about the world and are not completely lost,
You
right?
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with what you're doing too, I mean, is an extension of like not only the community that you first joined too, but like the overarching kind of theme is like finding your people. You know what I mean? Like, and feeling like there's a collective kind of brain trust here that works. And um, you're helping people do that, which is
Yeah.
not an easy task for, I mean, for anybody to build a community. Like I said, we try to build a fan base here on the show,
Right.
or we try to find readers or whatever, and it's not easy to go about finding your people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there ever a time that you have to tell people like, okay, we're we're moving too fast here, you got
Yeah.
to slow it down and find the right ones?
The thing I think about first is the community concept. Is the solution community? So I
Mhm.
gave an example the other day of going, um, not flossing and not brushing my teeth consistently. So let's say I didn't have good habits about my dental routine and I had a lot of cavities. So I wouldn't go to you to say, hey, I have all these cavities. I go to the dentist, and then the dentist's like,
Yeah.
takes care of the cavities, right? But I could find a community that might help me practice better dental hygiene and understand like why that's important, how I can implement it into my day and make it easier, and maybe do it with other people. Like, oh yeah, I brushed twice today, and whatever. I don't know. That's
Right.
a silly
Yeah.
example, but just to say
Yeah.
that like
Makes
that's the
sense.
difference between like, you hire professionals for a specific service or something, but community isn't always the answer. Sometimes it
Sure.
is, and sometimes it isn't. So I think we have to understand, is community the answer to the problem that we're trying to solve? And
Yeah.
secondly, who are the people and what stage are they in? Because technically you could think about people who are, for the toothbrush example, like kids are different training or lessoning, like learning, than
Yeah.
adults,
Yeah.
as well as different than people who don't speak English, and maybe everything is in English and they can't read the toothpaste containers or something. That's a
Right.
whole different problem
Yeah.
than not brushing teeth or having flossing
Yeah,
habits.
there's one core thing and then a million different ways to go about it
Yeah.
too. And I think it's also
Yeah.
very interesting too, like in the notion of like this era of social media where word of mouth is how a lot of people build trust with each other, or vice versa. They're asking for things like, okay, I haven't been on Facebook in a couple of weeks, but I know that people like ask Facebook questions all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Recommendation.
they ask for recommendations for stuff. I think that's a feature now. You can
Yeah,
ask
you
for
can.
recommendations on things.
Yeah.
And to your point, Deb, they're saying, yes, I want a professional sometimes, but they're also saying like, who do you guys go to rather than doing the work of like trying to find it too.
Yeah.
So I think there's a convenience factor too in it, but like
Yeah.
Oh,
the thought of somebody else has it figured out and I'm gonna go to them first before I actually
Yeah.
go to like try and do it on my own,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell us, you mentioned, obviously calm is kind of the word I latch onto. It was that something that you had in mind before your clients started telling you that you make them calm, or like is that a thing that you focus on? How did that come about? And just because I think it's great, and it's a really cool, it's a talent to have.
We both strive for calm
We
over
do,
here.
and we're not. So
Well,
tell us.
I'm not always calm either. Nobody's ever always calm, for one thing.
Yeah.
Um, I I knew that when I was working with this community back in 2018, they asked me what my niche is for travel.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I want to have destinations of calm as
Mhm.
my kind of travel theme, because people want to not just escape and like check things off their bucket list, but they want to have an experience. And so I wanted to write about experiences you can have in different places and that were calming, that were helping you to like not feel anxious or not
Yeah.
have those like big checklists of I got to go to 17 places before 7 o'clock tonight
Know
or
that
something.
vibe.
Yeah.
Right? That's like annoying or very
Uh-huh.
anxiety ridden. But
Yes.
the business name came from a night when I was looking back at the butterfly pictures that I had taken of that butterfly
Mm.
place, a refuge. And I was like at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was working on some stuff and on my computer, and it just came to me like the find calm. And then the here part of it, the find calm here was added later because I realized that somebody had already claimed the domain findcalm.com. So
Oh, yeah.
I added findcalmhere.com to get the
There you
domain
go.
name. So that's kind of how that all played out.
Perfect.
It kind of works as the perfect
Yeah,
advertisement
it's
for
like
it
right
too.
here.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
so this has been really
Yeah.
great, and we didn't even kind of get into the book part of it a little bit, but what do you think the immediate kind of like next future has for you of where do you want to take things, more consulting, branching out, like where do you want to grow now that we're in a new year in the coming year?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I'll first say the book kind of talks about these two. In the first chapter, I talk about an empire versus an ecosystem. And
Mm-hmm.
an empire system, like you're thinking about like a one person, and you get access in different ways to that one person in an online community, versus an ecosystem where we kind of all have some kind of something to share and something to learn and something to teach. And so
Mhm.
that's the kind of ecosystem community that I suggest building within the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of methodology is something I'll keep continuing to share. This how we all have shared, we all have wisdom, and then bringing that when I'm in a room with someone else, they're bringing that wisdom, things that I don't know from
Mhm.
their life, just as I'm bringing things from my life. So I think that's always going to be an impactful thing. Community is the answer to a lot of problems. It
Yeah.
really is. We don't like to do stuff alone. We don't.
Mm.
We
Right.
just don't. We
Yeah.
are meant to be people who do things together, and it's a lot easier for you to go to a workout with your friends or meet up people at your local hangout because you know they're going to be there. So it's like the same thing online. It's where am I going to go where my people are? So I think that's never going to go away. I think in fact we're in a place where that's going to we're into the new forefront of like the Facebook is the community for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want a for everyone community anymore. That's too
Yeah.
much. We don't need the everyone community. We need the where's my community.
For
So I
people.
think that's
Yep.
what I'm inspired to continue doing. I think it's hard because consulting is it's very infrequent pay
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
starting out. So I've been contemplating going back to full-time work, but I seem to every time either not get an opportunity to even interview or something. I'm not doing successfully well with applications. And so I thought, I guess that just means I need to keep doing my business. I guess that just means
Yeah.
Yeah.
the universe is telling me that Deb, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. And the community that I lead is called Community Builders with Purpose. And that's kind of where I'm going to be spending my time this year, at least for the next foreseeable future.
Sure.
Excellent.
Well, if people want to find community builders with purpose, where should they go for that? Obviously, the website too is
Mhm.
findcalmhere.com.
Yeah.
But where would you go find this community? Because now we need to go
It sounded
build
like
some
you said
communities.
.com. I just want to throw it out there. That's what it
.com.
sounded like a little bit. It's .com.
We
Yeah.
should set that up,
That'd
and
be
we could get
sweet. Yeah.
Deb as our
Uh-huh.
first client
That'd
on
be
this.
perfect. Just saying.
.com. Perfect.
You heard it here first, Deb.
Yeah. We're starting it now. Everyone on the internet, don't worry about it.
Uh-huh.
We claimed it. Patent
back.
pending. Patent pending.
Anyway, back to you.
Well, yes. Where can we find the
I would
community?
say just go to findcalmhere.com. There will be resources there. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I just started TikTok. I'm trying to do TikTok.
Let's
So
go.
There you
Perfect.
go. We also are just trying to do TikTok.
Yes, we're there. It exists, but
We're
are
working
you
on it.
guys are you guys improvisers by any chance?
Well, I mean, I guess by nature, but not like a like I don't do it like professionally or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do like improv, like
Mm-mm.
comedy or anything like that.
No. Alan's not that funny. I am, but he's not.
Well, I've taken levels 1, 2, 3 of improv.
Oh,
Mhm.
awesome.
We have a Harrisburg Improv Theater here,
Yeah.
and I just was assuming that you guys are into improv
I
because it
love
seems
it.
like
No,
you've got a good good thing going there.
Well,
So
you know, it's I
Well,
mean, I
thank
almost
you.
failed this topic, but it's called chemistry. I think that's
Oh, yeah,
that's it.
sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it here. I appreciate that. We have a good
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
So
thank
it was
you.
great to be on the podcast and fun,
Yeah, it was great to
which
have you.
isn't always true.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course. And if it's your first time listening to this show,
Yes, if it's your first time listening to the
I was
podcast.
gonna do it.
Oh, okay, go
Can
ahead.
I do it? All right. I
We
started and
just
took
talked
over.
about how good we were at
Well, I
improv.
know, but this is don't tell them this, but sometimes we get in big arguments when we're if it's your first time listening to the show or your 75th time listening to this show, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, I'm gonna do the rest of them. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Oh, damn it, that's X. We're on a lot of stuff. All right.
We're all over the internet.
And you can find us. We have a Gmail, hustlingsideways@gmail.com. We record here weekly. We have great guests. And then we also have bonus episodes. And I hope that's all.
That's all of it.
Oh, look at that.
I think you nailed it.
So, Alan, send us out.
All right, keep on hustling. We'll see you next week.